Welcome everyone to the scenario escalation via data mining. This is it. We are finally going to escalate our privileges in the Cyber Inc. domain. If you've been watching, we did our situational awareness. We got our user persistence with Phyllis Snyder, but now we're actually going to reach out. We're going to enumerate the file server. We're going to look at home directories. We're going to be compressing files, bringing them back, a ton to cover in this video. But in the end, we are going to have a domain admin token that we can use to escalate our privileges and grow, hopefully pivoting to other systems in the domain. So we have our callback here. If I do a little who am I, you'll see Chicago, Phyllis Snyder. Now, we know Phyllis is a basic user in this domain. Let's jump down into a shell here. So I'm going to do shell. Yes, I'm an adult. cmd.exe. Let's do a net user, Phyllis Snyder, whack domain. And we're going to get a little bit more information about Phyllis just to see what she's up to. So this is her username for Windows. This is her full name, usually spelled out with a space between them. You can see the password last set time, when the password expires. If you see the user recently changing their password, definitely keep that in mind. If you're dumping credentials off the system, they may not work anymore. So definitely make sure you've dumped credentials after that password last set time. That'll come into play. But I really want to draw your attention to two things down here. I want to show you the home directory path. This should immediately be a huge alert that you need to go dig into the home directory or even the file server in general, which we will get to in just a minute. But I really want to draw your attention down here to domain users. As you can see, Phyllis is a basic domain user here. We can't use her credential to escalate. She needs to call someone on the phone, right, to get them over to administer her box. If she needs to install software or anything else, she won't have rights to do that. Now, let's say we've enumerated Phyllis Snyder's local workstation, kind of exhausted all our opportunities. Let's say we ran that sharp up command to list out potential privesks. The next place I would kind of turn my focus are network-based resources, which is perfect because we have the file server right here. Another really useful command, again, these are all in the RTFM, right? If you go through the different enumeration sections, I know we covered this one, net use. This will list out network shares that are currently mapped by the local user. And what do you know? There's a network share mapped to the home directories for Phyllis Snyder. So let's go take a little peek here. We'll do a dir, paste in our path. Oh, stuff.txt. Whenever there's a .text file, I always want to take a peek. So let's do our little type command here. Hopefully you remember that from some of our previous sections. We'll type out stuff.txt and just my stuff. She's trolling us, right? Not a lot to do there. So let's go ahead. Let's back up. We're going to test a very common misconfiguration right off the bat. What do you think should happen if I directory list all the home directories, right? This is fairly common. You can see all the users that have home directories here, but let's go ahead and do a dir here. And let's just try to peek into one of these other home directories. And it worked. Even if these files aren't exactly what we want, we know there's a potential treasure trove in here of all sorts of data and information. So immediately we know every user home directory is in play. We can go look at those. Again, very common misconfiguration. One of the other things I want to do though, let's go ahead, let's try to do a net view, also in the RTFM. We'll do a whack all here. This is going to list out target shares that are listed out by the file server, and the whack all right here, that tells it to list out all directories, even if they're hidden. I think that's Windows 7 and later that applies. And we can see here we have, our $, IPC$, but we also have another share called main drive. Could be for some more domain file sharing. Let's go ahead. Let's try to list out that one. And as you can see, I'm doing a lot of copy paste here just to keep things fast. So we're going to do our dir of the file share of that new share that was shared out. We have accounting, executive, HR, IT. Let's take a little peek, see if it works. Again, it should be locked down unless I'm in IT, right? And it's not. So really easy to get access to stuff. We have a lot to do. Now, if I throw back to when we were doing some of our file system enumeration in this section, I mentioned instead of going through all of these files one dir after another, it would actually be better to tree out that target file system to a file, compress it, and bring it back. So that's what we're going to do right now. We're going to go grab one of those tree commands and then tree out both those shares to files on our computer here. Dir c users Then we can do, yep, perfect. So that worked. Let me scroll up here. You can see app data local temp, a bunch of files. Now I want you to think through this. If we write out our file to MS Edge installer 2 and 3.log, is that going to be very obvious? Probably not. You know, an admin coming in to look here, they're going to be like, oh, MS Edge installer, 1, 2, whatever. It's all just Microsoft Edge stuff, right? And this is all about tradecraft. We want to make sure our actions and activities blend into the target system. So let me grab this log file. We're going to build out a playbook for this one. There's a lot to cover. You know, we want to make sure we do it right here. Let me get rid of some of these other notepad items. All right, we got our file there. Let's grab our full path. And we'll also put it in front of it. See users fill list. I think I made a mistake. Yeah, temp. Let's back it up. MS Edge installer. Perfect. Looks great. We're going to use this as our output path when we actually tree out our file share. We have 2 folders to tree out. We have main drive and we have that home directories folder. So let's come over here. We're going to change MS Edge installer. I think I told you I'm going to do 1. And then I'm going to make it a little bit more stealthy. I'm going to put .dat here. So let's go, let's copy, paste. Because we're going to be creating 2 of these files, right? Over 2 of those folders. Now we need to find our tree command. So let me pull up our RTFM. We're going to do tree just because we're going to give it a try here. Again, you could use the dirwalk, the dirwalk S, or the for file, right? That's another good one that we have in there. Now, you can kind of see why I'm using a playbook here. There's just a lot of moving pieces, and it's so much easier to build this all out into a notepad, make your edits, verify it. You could even have a colleague come over and take a look at it, make sure it looks good. So we got that. Let's scroll up. I want to grab our 2 routes that we want to list out. So we have main drive here. Let's copy and paste that in. We're going to kind of assemble our tree command here. And then the other one we wanted was home directories. So let me scroll up even more, grab our home directories here, and we got to copy paste our tree command. So let me put that there. We'll come over here, paste it in right here. And then I need to fix the output paths here. So let me copy these 2 awesome paths I made earlier. We'll overwrite whatever the RTFM default was. Let's put it here. I'll clean up these commands, and that's basically it. Again, let's look through this command and make sure it's doing exactly what we want it to do. So looking in here, you see your tree.com. There's a couple flags we're giving it to list out various attributes and other things. We're going to target the Chicago FS1 main drive share. We're going to output the entire tree file to C users, Phyllis Snyder, app data local temp, and then we're going to call it MS Edge installer 1.dat. And then we're going to do that all over again, but we're going to target the Chicago file server 1 home directories folder. So now we have both of our commands primed and ready. Again, in the real world, this could be against a server that has like 100 terabytes of hard drive space. So it could take all day to do. You never really know. I'm not sure how long these are going to take, but let's go ahead and run them and see how it works. So I'm going to grab the first one here. We're going to come down, make sure our shell's working. Maybe we'll do a little task list to make sure we're live. Awesome, our task list worked. We know it's alive. Let's grab our first one here, paste clipboard, fire it off. That was fast, right? Maybe we can do a little quick check, make sure it looks good. So let's do a dir. We'll just dir the file. Typically when I'm doing this, I just want to make sure that the file size is more than like 1 byte, right? So we know it's full. There's a lot of stuff in there, so that's a really, really good find. Let's go back to our mouse pad. We'll grab our next tree right here, and we're going to do our dir of that guy as well. So dir2.dat, even bigger. So it looks like we have both of our files up there. They look great. Now, before I download these from the host and clean them up, because again, we want to download them, verify they look good, then we'll delete the extra files we created, we want to compress them. So this should be very easy. I'm going to make a little playbook so I can copy paste it. So we're going to do make cab. We're going to copy the full path. And then we're going to go ahead and give it another path here. So I'm just going to make it really easy so I don't get them mixed up. I'm just going to put an extra 1 after it. So you can see here, make cab this entire dat file, which is actually a text file, right? and then output it as the same thing, but we're going to call it installer11.dat. Now, I do want to give you all another just massive pro tip. Whenever you're operating against a target machine, try to use full path as much as possible. Yes, it's a little more annoying not being able to just use the file names, but a lot of tool sets won't be able to use that absolute path very well. So I just try to use full path whenever I can. It'll definitely save you in the long run. So we have our first make cab here really easily. I'm just going to copy paste this. We're going to switch it over to this 2.dat, 2.dat. And now we have pastables for both of our tree files. So flushing current folder looks like it worked really well. Let's go grab our other one, paste that one in. Looks really, really good. Let's do a dir just to make sure they output how we wanted. Scroll up here. Perfect. So I do want to do a quick review here. We have the original Microsoft Edge installer log file. You know, it's got stuff in there, looks good. And then we have some of the other files we made alongside of it. They kind of blend in, right? You can also call them .log files. Honestly, just whatever you want to call it that blends in the best. I do want to take a look at the file size. Take a look at that. Pretty good compression ratio. Same for this other one. Looks to be about less than half with all that text. The bigger the file, the better it'll compress. Now that we have these compressed files sitting on the host, we want to go ahead and download them back to our attacker box so we can open them up and then look through all the files on the file server and see if we can find any potential passwords or other sensitive files. To do that, we're gonna exit out of our shells because we have to go back to the Sliver main menu here. And then I'm gonna do an ls. We're just gonna ls the target path here to make sure we can see them. And we do need to double backslash, obviously, because we're back in the Sliver home menu here. Let's get our ls made here. Okay, looks great. Can see our two files, excellent. So now we want to go ahead and download these compressed files back to our machine. So I'm going to build a little playbook here. We'll go download, see if I can spell it right. And then we're going to give it the full path to the file with the double backslashes. And we want to call it this 22 and then obviously the 11, right? So let's make sure we're good. We'll paste it in. This is going to download our first zip, obviously really small. And again, if this was a gigabyte text file, by doing the compress, you'll get it much lower than even 500 megabyte. So it should download a lot quicker, obviously making your life more convenient, and then it's less for a potential defender to see on their end as well. Bouncing back to mousepad, let's go ahead and grab our download here, 22. And it looks like it dropped them on the desktop. Let's go check them out and see what we got. I'm going to go ahead and rename these. Sometimes the file name that Sliver gives them will break it. And I'm going to call it .cab. That will allow me to unzip it a little easier just using the GUI. So again, you know, rename these .cab. Excellent. Alrighty, double click it. Awesome. Got our DAT file here. I'm going to make a new folder. Let's call it datamined docs. Copy our file in there. So that's 11. Let's see if we can grab this one as well. And I'll just rename these to .text files. So I went kind of quick there, but what I just did was downloaded both files using Sliver. I renamed them on my own host with a .cab extension. That allowed me to just double click them, open them up, right? I opened both of them, copied the contents into a new folder called datamined docs over here, and then just renamed them to .text files. From here, I can open them in whatever program I want that reads text files. And I could go ahead, start searching through file names, you know, using Control F or whatever you want to see what they got. So now that we have these open, let's go ahead, dig in and see if we see anything interesting. So we may search for password, pass, we may look for admin or something that could just be administrative type files. I'm gonna be a little bit more direct in my search. I'm gonna search for cred. And what do you know, Sarah Austin has a file called mycreds.xlsx. Now, We're going to do a ton of domain enumeration using dsquery in later videos. But let's go ahead and do a few quick queries of the Chicago domain and see who has administrative credentials to the domain controller. To do that, I'm going to go back down into a shell here. We're in our command prompt. I'm going to do a net local group administrators whack domain. I'm going to see a bunch of different users and groups here. One of the groups, domain admins, looks interesting. Let's do a net group domain admins whack domain. And look how lucky we got. Sarah Austin, who has that file, also has a domain admin account. Now remember, you are data mining Sarah Austin's user profile folder on the file server, not her domain admin profile. But you know, that's the one she's always connected to the file server with. Maybe she put some important data in there. If this were a real assessment, I would be diving right in to grab that XLS folder just to see what's in there. So let's do that. Let's bring up Sliver again. We're gonna exit. We'll pull up our Visual Studio here. Looks like it's in home folders, Sarah Austin. So we're gonna do some LSs. We're gonna make sure we can see this cred file, and then we're gonna go grab it. So like I said, with the tree command, you have to kind of match up the full path here. So let me scroll up here. We'll see what we got. Okay, cool, we got it right here. Let's start to build our playbook like we're used to by now, hopefully. Got our file path there. I think it was cred. Perfect. So we have Sarah Austin. And then we have my creds, XLSX. And then we're going to do an LS. And because we're using Sliver, we have to double all our backslashes. And let's go ahead and do our LS command here. Looks good. Fire it off. And it found it successfully. Awesome. One step closer. Now we can do our download, pass it the path. And now that it downloaded successfully, we can go ahead and open it up on our attack machine. So let's do that. Open our desktop. Here it is right here. We're going to do a really quick rename just to make sure it doesn't kind of mess up. Open it up in Libre. Look at that, all their credentials. It's not uncommon to find some personal logins inside of work stuff as well. Depending on where you're working, where you're operating, you probably need to go in and censor some of the personal stuff out, but take a look at it. We got a work login. I hate long passwords. I do want to mention too, Sarah has a domain admin account and a basic account. There's no guarantee that this work password works for either of them, really, right? It's labeled work. It could be for either account or both accounts. We don't know, but we're going to try it anyway. Now, before I get ahead of myself, I do want to go back to my Sliver client and clean up properly. Cleaning up is really important. You don't want to be leaving all these files, all these artifacts all over if you don't need them anymore during an actual assessment. And let's find all of our file names. So if you remember, we put them in temp. We have MS Edge installer, 1.1.1.2.2.2. I'm going to really quickly go through these, and we're going to go ahead and delete them all with RM. So we're going to do our RM on that one. I'm just going to copy paste it really fast. 1.1, copy paste it really fast. 2, copy paste it really fast. 2.2. And then we can up arrow and do our original ls command, and we'll make sure they're all gone. Sure enough, take a look at that. MS Edge installer, that's hit. We deleted our other files. So now we deleted all those artifacts off the host, all those tree files that we did, cleaned up and tidy. We have all those on our attack machine, and we downloaded that Excel document that had a plain text password. Now, before I end this video, I did want to show you all how we can validate those credentials. This is going to be a little tricky here. We need to execute a Sliver implant as that administrator with their plaintext password. But the tricky part is we can't execute the same Sliver implant that's inside of Phyllis Snyder's directory because Sarah Austin does not have administrative access to this workstation. She's only a domain admin. In this network, we have workstation admins as well. They're practicing separation of privilege, which means they have workstation admins, domain admins, server admins, SQL admins, and that sort of thing. So everyone has their own role to play. We're gonna have to upload a new Sliver implant somewhere where all the users have access, and then we can go ahead and use the Run As plugin to go ahead and kick off that implant. So I have my upload command here, uploading FastElm. All we need to do now is specify where we want to upload it to. Program data is a great folder all users have access to. And then I may call it adobe.exe. You can definitely name it something different than your first one, which I would almost recommend. So let's do an ls real quick. We'll make sure that the folder looks good and that it's there. Awesome. You know, there's a couple things in here. We could probably upload it as like ntuser.exe as well. So let's go over to our notepad. Let's update our playbook to upload it as ntuser.exe. See program data, ntuser.exe. Let's do our upload. And then once it's done, we want to do our ls, make sure it uploaded successfully. ntuser.exe looks awesome. And the nice thing is we can type help run as to get all the syntax we need for the specific command. Now, if I look closely, I have a tag D for domain, P password, P process. Remember, these are case sensitive. See the upper and lower case there. And then tag U for the username. So let's go ahead, let's get this going. We'll do run as, tag D, Chicago, because Sarah's in the Chicago domain. Sarah, Austin, DA. We really want this password to work with her DA account. Tag big P is for the password. I hate long passwords. And then we'll do the tag P, and we got to give it the target exe to run. So that'll be program data, ntuser.exe. Fire that off, successfully ran. Now we just gotta hang tight and hope we get a sliver callback. Awesome, just got our callback here. New callback from Shy WS04. I'm gonna assume this is the Sarah Austin one. Let's go ahead, do a background, sessions, and we can see right here, Sarah Austin DA. How awesome is that? Let's go ahead, do a sessions I, interact. We'll do a PS, see what we can see. Very cool. We have full access to this machine as Sarah Austin DA. Now for the moment of truth. Can we list out the Chicago domain controller $share? This will tell us if we have administrative privileges to the target domain controller with Sarah Austin. And spoiler alert, we did that net local group command earlier. We saw Sarah is a part of the domain admins group, which has administrative access to the DC. And awesome, it worked great. We have administrative access to the domain controller. So now we can move into our next section of videos, which is remote execution and remote enumeration. So I hope this video was helpful, just kind of piecing everything together. I know there's a lot to cover. Feel free to rewind, go rewatch some portions if you need to. If not, we'll see you in the next video where we start to enumerate and gain access to the domain controller.